and welcome back to the channel. Today we're looking at a rig that you can use daily. This is my current setup, so it uses HX stuff and analog stuff, and we're looking at could I do that in a full Helix system. But actually, what would I prefer as somebody who gigs a lot, and what some of the benefits are of the Helix over a hybrid system. My rig incorporates the HX effects, but some original pedals. A couple of those pedals you haven't got in the Helix system, and I go into a deluxe reverb tone master, so you can use some of the IR stuff, which is obviously really useful. You can still do silent stage, and the amp weighs nothing. It weighs less than an FRFR, so if you are one of those people who likes to have some kind of monitor with you when you're gigging, the Deluxe does that as well. I've got a Silver Sky SE to kind of demo some of the tones and some of the stuff that I've got on here. So I'll just go through the rig, and then we'll see if we can replicate that. One of the first things I was going to say is I've got the Origin Effects stacked pedal that's always on. So this has two compressors on, one with a slow attack, one with a longer attack, and that the blend is on full. So you've got the original guitar signal running parallel, and you've also got the compression going on. So if I turn that off here, so this is just like a Deluxe. Okay, when I put my compressor on, everything's just been niced up. Okay, so that's my platform. I use a fuzz face straight in as well because of the way it affects tone in the chain. So input into the fuzz face. This is the fuzz face, which I'll demonstrate on the Helix in a minute. This is a fuzz face mini. Because of the compressor, it's got really good sustain, so I'd normally use it. So it's set up to not necessarily give me a volume boost, but it will definitely give me some some wonderful kind of tones. So with my after it's done that, it goes into the HX effects. Now I love the HX effects for many reasons. It's got all the effects that you've got on the big Helix. There are less patches that you can use because of the way the because of the processing power. But I use the effects loop. So after I go into the HX effects, I've heard that it buffers the signal. So that will go into the Analog Man King of Tone next. So I'm just going to put it on. At the moment this is turned low. So that's the overdrive side. And the whole point of this really is to condition my signal, and what I tend to do is stack different overdrives together. The other side of it's set to boost. And the nice kind of lead sound with that, with the delay. So yeah, it's quite nice. It sustains forever, really. Okay, so I can use that. I've got a crayon. Crayon is really good. Now, there isn't a crayon in the Helix system. It depends what I'm doing, but I've just done a run of gigs where I've been kind of standing in for somebody, and they're sometimes they can be quite loose. They'll just throw in the solos. They'll go, all right, and I'll get a nod from the MD, and that's when I've got to pull out a big solo. So that actually gives it a boost at the same time, the way I've got it set. So it's giving me loads more gain than I would normally. It's quite cool though. Sometimes I'll just use it quite low and then use it to colour in some other sounds. It clips a bit like a tube screamer, but it's not as mid-humpy. And the cool thing with it is, if you want that mid-hump, you just control it with the EQ. So you turn the bass and treble down, and then you'll get like a tube screamer. If you want something that's your own, like as I'm using it, I like a bit of a bass boost with single coils. If I'm using the Les Paul, it's not necessarily as important, or my McCarthy, but it's there. The other pedal I use is this is the Mosky Klon. I watched all of those JHS videos, and they do you have to kind of play a game where you guess which one's the real Klon and which one's the copy. And it's so hard to tell. And I know it's on YouTube, so it's not you're not necessarily listening to it with studio monitors. But let me put this on. Klon overdrives are just ace. Pure rock and roll. So I'll use the Klon as a Mosky, but it sounds very similar to a Klon. I've got it right up, and with a Les Paul, you could just use that, the compressor and that, and you've just got this amazing tone, and you can just control everything through your volumes and your tones. The next one is just a boost pedal. This one is the MXR booster. I like this because it conditions your sound a little bit more, and it's got the Echoplex thing in it. It's like the Echoplex preamp. So that's my normal tone. If I put this on, it gives me just more. That's warm, it's still quite clean. Sounds nice on them. So once we're back out of the effects loop, so it's kind of gain stuff, I then do all the other effects. So I've got my Ampeg liquefier, which is a great little pedal, which you would have available on the Helix or wah, and then stuff that I like to get up to and make. So this, that's an organ that I've made, and I've got a Leslie speaker that changes with a pedal. So that's always quite entertaining, but I do use that quite often. So you could make all of that stuff on a Helix, on a HX Stomp, but on the HX effects, this works well for my overall rig. Bear in mind, I've got to carry an amp and I've got to carry a guitar around. Okay, so this is the, we're now using the Helix and I've dialed in most of the things that I use on my normal rig, so for comparison really, and I'm just going direct in, and it's apparently on the cab sim it's the same setup that I've just used. So it's a deluxe reverb with SM57, 45-degree angle, all of that stuff. Let's just listen to it. Deluxe. Okay, when I put my compressor on, everything's just been niced up. Okay, and I'm using a compressor with the same, trying to get the same kind of settings on this as well. But it doesn't have the origin effects with the blend, so what I would say from that is it's a perfectly giggable kind of tone. So with a deluxe reverb, you've got the reverb is built into the amp, and so is the tremolo system or vibrato, as it says on the thing. You basically need an extra patch to do your reverb, so I'm using the 63 spring reverb on this to try and emulate the reverb sound. It's very good, it's very convincing. So I've set this up in the same way. I've got a fuzz face first, so if I put the fuzz face on, really good. It's really good. It's not as gnarly. Let's listen to it against the other one. Because of the compressor, it's got really good sustain, so I'd normally use it. Now I'm going to try the King of Tone. Okay. So this on the King of Tone here. I'm just going to check it. I think this one is the. I go. Right. Which one are we using? Right. I haven't got a gain mod on mine. This is the overdrive. If I had a bit more gain. Now, on my King of Tone pedal, it's all built into one thing. On here, I need to go, if I want to use a different channel, just going to save that. If I need to go onto another channel, I have to just check that as well. I'm just going to make sure it's not on the high gain. This time it's on a boost clipping setting. Okay, so this one. Cool, if I had a bit more gain like I did on the other one. That's actually really, really accurate in terms of its clipping. I'm pretty convinced when I hear that. It sounds great. Now, this is the other thing, when you have a King of Tone, you can put two together. Okay, so it's not too bad actually. I think mine might sound a bit. Let's just listen to both again. Together. This one's the Minotaur on here, but it's actually a Klon. So my Klon is fairly dimed. I'm just going to dime it. Well, I wouldn't say it's dimed actually. It's quite high on the gain. It's probably about 8 tone, and then the level is right down. I've adjusted the wrong thing. This is a problem for me, because when I'm doing a gig, I just want to set the stuff up. I actually find using the other system, there we go, so I can touch it and now I can adjust it. I find that the Helix effects is a lot better for that. So I can crank that right up, drop this down a bit so it's about similar levels. So this doesn't feel like it's got the same kind of level of headroom as the other, as my Klon that I use. Oh, let's turn that back a bit. I love the Klon. That's fantastic. Let's combine it with that. Right, let's just compare this against the other one. Key lessons. Number 1, when I'm in the middle of a show or if I'm on stage, I know you can do this hands-free, and there are ways to do it, and it's once you learn it, but it's so easy just to bend down and turn a knob, isn't it, and know where that sound is. With this, you've got to find a menu, you've got to find the thing, you've got to tap it, you've got to find. It's so much quicker to just bend down and turn a knob. Let's just test it. So if I want to change my setting on my fuzz face, okay, first of all, imagine the fuzz face is on, okay, so I've got to get down, touch it, find the level, go to the knob, turn it to whereabouts I think it is. Okay, there we go. Now, can I do that with the fuzz off or effect off? Yeah, I can, so I don't have to have the effect on, which is great. When I'm doing it just with my actual fuzz, I just turn down and do that. And sometimes every second counts when you're on stage. Sometimes you don't want to be bending down at all, so there's ways you can do it with this, I get it. But I am quite old school in the sense that I like to do that. And if a nice pedal comes along, you want to try it out. So like the Crayon, for example, the Crayons they're £50 type pedal, but they're an absolute weapon, and they're really useful for anybody that wants to do something with a pedal. So I think they're great, and you can use it in so many different ways. But this doesn't have the Crayon, so it's got loads of other things, but it doesn't have the Crayon. So if I wanted a Crayon, I wouldn't be able to just add it into the rig like I can with my pedal board. So there's that as well. So for me, it's great to have the gain structure, but yeah, I'm not using a Variax. There's lots of reasons why I wouldn't use a Variax. Nothing wrong with them, they just don't give me a vibe. And a lot of guitars are about relationships with instruments and the philosophy of that. So I'd rather have my sort of beat up guitars that I use that all bring something you know, when I play them, and inspire me. And it's too much of a blank slate, really, the Variac thing. But these are just the possibilities with your Helix is limitless. I wonder though, would a stomp and a HX effects give you more than a Helix could? So that would be something worth testing out. Another thing I'd say is the weight. So my board is still weighs less than the Helix. I know my board doesn't do amp modelling. I have got an amp modelling pedal. I can use a Strymon Iridium, which has just got like 3 really good amps on. I know this has way more amps and stuff, but there you go. That's the compromise, really. I find that it's better to know your gear than it is to have lots of it. So one of my favourite podcasts is Know Your Gear by Phil McKnight, and he's got a great YouTube channel as well for like how to look after your gear and run it. But you know, I do think if you know your gear inside out, you'll be able to get through any kind of problems. And I think with a rig where you've got some analog stuff and say like a HX effects or something as an alternative, you've got more options when it goes wrong. If you had a Helix, and I have got a few friends who've sort of plugged it in and it's just said error, that's been really hard for them in the gig, because they've got, you know, they might have patches and things. I can replace a pedal off it. If my HX effects didn't work, I'd still have an amp. If my amp didn't work, I've got IRs loaded into the HX effects, and I've got pedals that work as preamps, so that would work better anyway. So that's another thing to think about. Okay, don't forget to like and subscribe. Subscriptions make a real big difference. They're free for you, but they actually make a difference for the channel and for me. So thanks for watching.